is no longer news that President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated the National Minimum Wage Tripartite Committee to arrive at a new minimum wage for workers in Nigeria in line with Convention 131 of the International Labour Organization. The 37-member committee is to come up with a new national minimum wage in the next 2 months to replace the subsisting 30,000 naira minimum wage that has been on since April 18, 2019. Former President Muhammadu Buhari in April 2019 signed the 30,000 naira National Minimum Wage Act into law with a lifespan of 5 years, among others. Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Adewale-Smart Oyerinde, joins us now to discuss the new attempt at reviewing the minimum wage and what parameters to consider in fixing a new minimum wage, as well as states' roles. Good to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
So let's get into it. What are the main factors that the committee should consider in determining the new minimum wage?
Well, I think the good thing about the conversation about the national minimum wage is that it is not a novel concept. It is not new to us. We had the minimum wage many years ago that battered the 18,000. The same modality framework was used for the minimum wage that battered 30,000, and you rightly mentioned Convention 131 of the ILO. So the same parameter which specifies the need of workers and their families. Then you have to look at the general economic situation. Then you also have to look at the need for sustainable enterprises. You need to find a balance between those three concepts. A balance that is a product of negotiation, as we call it, and it's also a product of good faith. If you don't get a balance and you get a figure that is lower than what it should be, then you probably perpetuate poverty, and you probably create an environment that is quite dysfunctional than what you are trying to avoid. And at the same time, if you arrive at a figure for whatever reason that is proportionately higher, then you also have set the ground for non-compliance, and you have set the ground for enterprise issues that enterprise might have because they might not be able to pay the minimum wage. So finding that balance and creating the dynamics that will help you to arrive at a consensus is what the committee will try to do.
So how optimistic are you that this committee will achieve that they will be able to get that balance, especially when you look at the minimum wages that have been set in time past? Now, we can't but be optimistic because during the inauguration, the employers were committed to a new national minimum wage because absolutely 30,000 is no more relevant within the context of the economic situation that we have. The workers too were optimistic. Government too, with the chairman and the governors, they also made commitment that there is going to be a review, a dispassionate review of the national minimum wage. Now, the dynamics of the economics, of the economy will also play a part. As workers have suffered some level of fatality in the context of their disposable income, organized businesses also have suffered maximally. In fact, for businesses, it's double jeopardy because you have, as we are suffering from the issue of interest rates, we are also suffering from the context of inflation rate and so many other vagaries that we have. But in the midst of all this, I think there is a general consensus that we need to deal with the issue of the national minimum wage and arrive at a figure that is not only meet the need of workers, but that's also sustainable. That is the long-term term. Suffice to say that you cannot build something on nothing. And this is a call to government. Because whatever figure you arrive at, so many economic indices that is out of the employer's hands and that is out of organized labor's hands will influence the sustainability of that figure. So there's something they call wage goods. If government can do its best to deal with those wage goods, transportation issues, we deal with it. Food security, we deal with it. And then we deal with the issue of shelter for the majority of the people. Because all of us, whether you're a worker, you are an employer, we all trade on those three goods. And if government can do its best, speed up its reforms, get the economy stabilized, then it won't be an issue of figure because the naira will be strong and the economy will be prosperous for everybody. So government will still have a lot to do to create that environment that will make every kobo count.
Now, you talked about the economic impact on businesses. You know, a lot of businesses have suffered. Some have even closed down. So I'm wondering how binding, this minimum wage would be on private employers. For instance, those who are even struggling to keep their businesses afloat.
Well, we must commend, we've said this several times, that we must all commend the resilience and doggedness of organized businesses. Sometimes you wonder, how do businesses survive in this environment? But notwithstanding those challenges, the 30,000 minimum wage, majority of the employers have kept faith with that amount. And it will also interest you that in the private sector, many sectoral groups are actually paying above 30,000 currently, far above 30,000 currently, which is quite commendable. So for the private sector, we are doing our best within the context of the limitations that we have to keep faith with agreements. You hardly see challenges with implementation of agreements in the private sector. That is more rampant in the public sector. The appeal will be to the public sector, to the governors, to the local governments, to the federal government, that they should do whatever is necessary, that the amount that will be arrived at the negotiation table will be something that they will keep faith with. For the private sector, we have shown consistently that a very high level of responsibility to keep up to agreements, and that we hope to continue to do. Trusting that government will fast-track all the economic reforms that they are putting on so that we can stop the tide of many other businesses either leaving the country or reducing their capacity utilization, because it feeds back into the economy. As people lose their job, then the economy suffers on the long run. And for me, sometimes we lose the main catch, the main problem, or the main challenge, or the risk that we face. When a big business or a medium business closes shop, we might look at the front end and say, look, it's just one company. But meanwhile, there are businesses that are probably supplying that same business some inputs. Those businesses also employs. So for a business to get to the point of exiting, it will affect 1, 2, 3, 4 other businesses that are supplying its input. And it will affect the employees of those other businesses. So the implication is far, is wide, and it's something that we should all take very deep, we should all view very deeply.
Now, you talked about state governors keeping faith, with the new agreement when eventually they do get a new minimum wage. But I'm wondering, shouldn't the governors themselves, be involved in these negotiations to get a new minimum wage? We already have states that are finding it difficult to pay their workers' salaries. We have states that are already owing, several months. How then do they balance this with the new minimum wage, paying all the areas, and then, of course, moving forward with the minimum wage?
The states are actively involved. We have 6 governors representing the 6 geographical zones. They were actively present. They were also inaugurated with the committee. They were also part of the committee the last time in 2018, 2019. I think the issue would be for the governors, the state governors, apart from those that have shown some level of ingenuity or innovation to improve their IGR. I think the task for the governors is to make the states more viable in order to take care of all the needs. Meanwhile, workers are just a segment. You see, you have different segments of the society that also needs attention. You have infrastructures that need attention. You have the pensioner. Different sectors need attention. So it is the responsibility of the state governments to look for which other ways can we generate revenue. The allocation for FAC, I think we said it has increased by over 200%. So how well are they going to use the fund that they are getting, the increased fund they are getting from FAC? How well are we going to bring in fiscal responsibility, thorough, genuine fiscal discipline and fiscal responsibility? Those are the issues that everybody have to look at. But once an agreement is reached and you are part of that agreement, the simple, responsible thing you should do is to keep
to that agreement. But we believe strongly that the state governors that were in that committee, that were inaugurated together with others, they showed commitment. They affirmed their commitment to the conversation that we're going to have. And hopefully when we arrive at that figure, it will be what is implementable, it will be what is sustainable.
Now, how significant will raising the minimum wage be without tackling the high level of inflation that we're experiencing in Nigeria? Already there are fears that raising the minimum wage would further fuel inflation, which might, make the wage increase insignificant in the long run. So what can be done to mitigate this?
Well, for my economics 101, inflation is a general increase in the price of goods and services. A general increase, basically. And what will make goods and services to be increasing? It is most likely increased cost of production, the challenges of forex that we have, as the cost of production or as the cost of services, the cost of producing one unit of service, as it increases, it impacts the cost of that goods, which will naturally, the business will accommodate some, and as soon as he realizes, look, accommodating one extra naira will put the business in jeopardy, it pushes the cost to the consumer. So it's for governments, to those managing our fiscal and monetary policies, to do the best that they can do so that they regulate inflation. Not only inflation, also deal with the issue of interest rates. Because as interest rates is going up, businesses that are leveraging on credit from banks, as the interest is going up, that means the cost of their production, the cost of the fund is increasing, and the cost of production will definitely go back and increase, which will also be passed to the consumer on the long run. So it's the responsibility of those that are managing the economy, the fiscal and monetary policy ministers, agencies, to deal with those issues and deal with it responsibly, and also quickly too, so that whatever gain that we will have made, as you said, on the issue of national minimum wage, inflation, high interest rates will not just balance it out to zero.
Adewale-Smart, Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.